Okay, it's now the top of the hour, so let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to today's webinar. Today we're going to be talking about the essentials for transitioning to a virtual or a hybrid law firm. Just a few housekeeping matters before we get started. This webinar is being recorded and will be sent to you via email shortly afterwards, so there's no need to take notes unless you'd like to do so. And in the event that you're having any issues with the audio or visual components of this webinar, please use the raised hand feature in the GoToWebinar control panel, or you can type us a message and we'll get that resolved for you as quickly as possible. So my name is Drew Mancini, and I am the Digital Marketing Manager here at Lawlytics. I have a background as a marketing consultant for solos and small law firms in digital marketing practices as well as branding. And now I continue to enjoy helping to make marketing more accessible and enjoyable for attorneys by helping to create those resources that ultimately work to demystify successful marketing practices. So in the era where technology and remote collaboration have become absolutely integral to the legal profession, staying ahead of the curve is not just a choice, but it's going to be a necessity. And for the solo attorney or a small law firm, the transition to a virtual practice can mean more business, less overhead, and a better work-life balance. And if you've been considering a new or virtual course for your law firm, this webinar is designed to equip you with the knowledge and the tools needed to thrive in that evolving legal landscape. So in today's webinar, we're going to be going over the steps to establishing your virtual infrastructure, some best practices for client engagement in a virtual world, some essential cybersecurity and data protection measures, and effective tactics for remote collaboration. So let's start first with why go virtual or hybrid. And to define what a virtual law firm is, it is a technologically enabled law practice that's beyond the traditional brick and mortar law firm. So what is the benefit of this? And it really starts with the fact that more and more tasks that were strictly in person can now be completed virtually, and that the tech really just is there. It's there right now today. We've got virtual communication methods, we've got case management systems, and we've got AI that is helping us do these tasks that were in person, and then now that they can be digital. Also, other industries are doing it. Think about the telehealth options and even any other industry that's doing hybrid and remote working. And those industries are able to do it successfully and effectively. And also, virtual law has also already been proven to be a viable and efficient alternative to in-person legal practices. And there's the increased interest in virtual courtroom proceedings. For clients, it helps break down the boundaries of physical space so that they can have access to the best services regardless of their location. For you, you can reach a wider customer base, and both clients and lawyers can optimize their time and resources by eliminating that commute altogether. And then there's also the cost of effectiveness. Brick and mortar inherently comes with overhead costs such as the rent, mortgage, insurance, office supplies, cleaning services, and all of those costs can be completely eliminated by having a virtual law firm. But that being said, of course, your first step is going to be to check if your state even allows you to bypass a physical office presence. There are still some states that require lawyers to have a physical office space that would prevent you from being entirely virtual. So maybe you would be that exception to more of that hybrid model. And now let's get into your virtual infrastructure. And we're starting first with the foundation. The first part of your foundation is going to be all of your essential operational technology. And this is kind of broken up into quite a few things because there are quite a few things that you need to run your business effectively. So there's the basics, which is how you are working as far as your home office goes. So that's going to be getting great high quality technology for your computer, your headset, and any additional monitors. You do have to make that decision, PC or Mac, and then from there you probably want to stick with that going forward so that you can make sure that everything stays as streamlined as possible and you're not having to have any of those instances where you have to overhaul your technology in a few years when you change your mind. And then you also have your productivity suite, which are also the basics. It's just the calendar, email, documents, and spreadsheets. Those are usually compounded all into one service, so for example, Office 365 or Google Suite, and you're probably already familiar with those. And then you need a phone system, which is needed for, of course, client intake and communication, but then also where can you use additional technologies such as auto attendance or third-party reception services, which we'll talk about in a future slide. And then you will need an online signature platform for signing documents remotely. These can be services like DocuSign or Adobe Sign, two things that you also may be familiar with at this point. One thing that I will include in the essential operational tech is cloud storage. If you're working virtually or even as a hybrid model, you're going to really want to access all of your documents from anywhere to work on, but also to collaborate on with other people on your team. So if you don't yet have a place to store all of your documents in a cloud space, then I would recommend looking into that. Dropbox is a good one, for example. And then lastly, the last essential operational tech you will need is bookkeeping. So that's including writing and depositing checks, making electronic transfers, maintaining full trust accounting records. And for this, a lot of attorneys, especially solos and small law firms, use QuickBooks. And kind of going along with the cloud storage, this should be another place where your bookkeeping should be cloud accessible for easy upkeep remotely. And then you have your communication tech, and we're going to elaborate on this a little bit later for both internal and client-facing communications. But basically, in your internal communication system, you're going to have email, internal messaging, and video calling. And then your client communication system will look something like phone, email, and maybe a chat feature on your website. Next, you'll have your case management system, your practice management software. Texts like Clio, Smokeball, Filevine, etc. can all help you with keeping everything organized from intake to close, and a lot of them integrate with your Lawlytics website. Next thing you'll want to do for your foundation is to revise your policies to reflect the realities of remote work. You want to have this include cybersecurity and data protection measures that we'll be talking about in a little more detail later on as well. And a part of this includes, according to the ABA, that lawyers practicing remotely have ethical responsibilities to supervise subordinate lawyers and non-lawyer assistants, and they must exercise managerial authority in such a way as to ensure compliance with the ethical rules across all positions in the firm. So if you are in a physical office and you're making that transition to virtual, you want to make sure to have that policy revised in your regular workplace policies to make sure that you're meeting all of those ethical standards for security. And then lastly, of course, you will need a high quality website and a legal marketing strategy. If you're going completely virtual, your website is going to be absolutely essential to your business infrastructure, and it's most critical to your firm's marketing. Your website's going to be your front door and your lobby and your first impression to a client all wrapped in one. And then legal marketing strategy includes things like your social media presence, your legal content marketing strategy, and you really need to think about where you can provide value over just promotion to your potential clients. Again, if this is how they are connecting with your firm, learning more about you, learning how you can be the best solution for their problem, you're going to have to be a little more strategic with your marketing in showing all of those elements. And then you also want to note how your current website or maybe your future website is going to be responsive to mobile devices. And this includes any of your marketing that you put out there. It's really just going to be where most of your potential clients are finding you once you go virtual. So because everyone is using mobile, you want to make sure that you're always making sure that your website and your marketing looks good on mobile and is responsive. So beyond the foundation of your virtual practice, there's also great tech and tools that are available to you to streamline your operations and help yourself boost productivity and in turn your profits. So for example, with the absence of a physical office with a sit-in receptionist, many virtual firms are turning to virtual receptionist services to screen incoming calls from potential clients and also help them make sure that they miss fewer calls from potential clients. So not only will this help you, not only will this help you deliver better service to your clients, but it's also going to cost you significantly less than hiring someone full-time in-house. And our Lawlytics websites integrate with several different types of these receptionist services, but some of them include softwares like Lex Reception, Abby Connect, and Smith AI. The second type of tech you'll want to consider if you're going virtual is electronic billing and payments. Electronic payments can be a great win-win for you and your clients by helping you get paid faster and increase your revenue while also improving your client's experience by giving them flexibility in their payment method. And this is something that can go directly on your website, which further helps your website become more of a hub of your business that's going to be so important when you are virtual or even hybrid. And then you want to think about how you can start leveraging AI and machine learning tools. The role of AI for your law firm could look something like helping you draft documents quicker or conduct better keyword research. It can also help you deliver better and faster legal services while also lowering the cost of doing business overall. And as a good starting point, you can consider where you may benefit from AI depending on what processes you can just go ahead and automate in your office. For example, we've talked about before using ChatGPT for blog writing in the past. So one thing that attorneys notoriously don't have time for is the upkeep of their law firm website blog. And ChatGPT can just help you get about 90%, if not more, of the way to a high quality blog in just a few minutes. If you are curious about using AI for website content as that initial starting point for leveraging AI, I'm going to link a helpful blog for this in the chat for you all. And oh, shoot, that happens to me every time. Sorry, this link just gets cut off towards the end there. I had an extra space. There we go. Apologies, it's that second link in the chat for you all. Okay, and then we have engaging clients virtually. How are we going to do this in our virtual law firm world now? So the first thing you're going to need to engage clients in a virtual world is reliable and effective communication systems, which are going to be super reliant on your firm's technology. They also help you work with the client in a way that's accessible and flexible for them, but then it's also going to be convenient for you. So we kind of touched on this towards the beginning of the webinar, but these are going to be things like chatbots, your email, video conferencing, any scheduling tools, and your case management system. So for chatbots, these can be super sophisticated and be monitored by a live person, or you can use AI to kind of generate some intro responses so that people can get a response to them automatically. You can monitor it yourself if you find that that's accessible to you. There's a ton of different options for chatbots. Email is, of course, email. Video conferencing, this is typically Zoom for most people, but there's definitely other options that are available to you and that are free. And then there's scheduling tools. A lot of people like to put things like Calendly on their website so that clients can schedule their own consultations or follow-up meetings or any other sort of meeting with you. They can just do it right through your website. You don't have to deal with the scheduling, and you also don't have to have someone on staff to do any scheduling for you. And then a lot of case management systems are awesome for that client communication. There's some case management systems that have client portals where you can communicate to clients via those portals. I've also seen case management systems that have mobile apps for the clients to communicate through them with you, and also a way for you to send them updates on their case, things like that. I would just encourage you to explore some different ways that you can communicate with the client that aren't just phone and email, because there's a lot of great tools that can help you out with this. And then you're going to want smooth document transition. One of the defining elements of a virtual practice is the ability to also handle your documents virtually. There's several great tools, like we mentioned before, Adobe Sign or DocuSign, that can eliminate your firm's need to mail documents to clients for signing and instead get the signatures that you need both instantly and securely. So that's going to help you out a lot with client engagement, but also just client satisfaction overall. And then you have social media, which might be a little bit more of a surprise for you in this discussion about going virtual. But with the absence of a physical office space, or maybe without the opportunity to engage with you as their attorney in person at all, social media can actually be a great supplement to your client engagement. And this often doesn't have to be anything major on your end, but our rule of thumb that we usually tote is that just one post a week on channels like Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, if you could handle all three, is the best cadence for posting on social media that is not overwhelming to you, but also shows that you are engaged enough on social media where if any potential client were to look on your feed, it doesn't look abandoned by any means. And then there's also certain types of posts that will help a virtual client feel a little bit more comfortable working with you or even hiring you. And things like that include posts about where you're kind of like working behind the scenes, or maybe you have a personal anecdote, or maybe a picture of you in the field, any sort of helpful tips that you can provide, and extra value that you like to provide on your social media, and similar things like that. So there's ways to still connect with people that don't necessarily have to be in person. And then there's also the opportunity to respond to any client testimonials that are left online, such as on your Facebook page or your Google Business Profile listing. And that can go a really long way in showing that you are engaged with your clients. Okay, and then this next section of our webinar, we're going to get into cybersecurity and data security. So just as a caution, I don't want you to forget that law firms make prime targets for cybercrime due to the level of valuable information that's being collected and stored daily, such as trade secrets, IP, merger and acquisition details, and all of the confidential attorney-client privilege data. As a result, about 30% of firms did experience some form of security breach in 2022 alone, according to an ABA cybersecurity tech report. And the reality is that a consequence of a breach can be very severe, and it can include outcomes such as compromised communications, the ability or inability to access your own data due to ransomware, can lead to public leaks of information, the loss of public or client trust, and malpractice allegations or lawsuits. So with all of that in mind, it is ethically and professionally your responsibility to protect client data and disclose any breaches if they occur. Data security laws can also vary with your location, so it's going to be your responsibility to understand your legal responsibilities in the event of a breach. And now let's briefly discuss some best practices for practicing your law firm's or protecting your law firm's data. As a starting point, you'll want to create and implement a data security policy at your firm that's both clear and easy to follow, and then be sure to continuously train staff on mitigating data risk. So some of these best practices include: 1, strong passwords. We all know this. They need to be complex, long, and changed often. If you don't have any sort of password storage software, I do recommend looking into one of those. They are awesome for, they help you create long and complex passwords, but then they also store them for you so that you don't have to remember them. And then the best part about them is that they prompt you to change your passwords every so often so that you are keeping those extra secure as possible. If you don't want to look into a password creation / protection software, just set a reminder on your phone to change your passwords once a month, for example, or every other month. And then that should do the trick as well. Next, you'll always want to encrypt your data. This can also be automated by various applications, or maybe your case management system already does this for you. And then you will want to review any vulnerabilities across your communication channels and find out where those can be encrypted as well. For a lot of people, for example, they communicate a lot through text message, but text messages are not encrypted. So if you are sharing sensitive data through text message that is not encrypted, then you can be vulnerable to breaches in that way. Next thing you'll want to do is implement access controls. So that means that if you have office-wide access to your case management system, maybe you don't want the same controls for your receptionist versus the head attorney, for example, just to kind of reduce risk that way. You can also conduct regular audits of your data security and plan for the worst. That is a really good idea. You want to understand what you need to be doing for mobile security as well, kind of what I mentioned for those text messages. The other part of this is two-factor authentication, any encryption, your backups to secure servers, and then also just have a plan for if you lose your device, because that could happen as well. And then lastly, you want to communicate with your clients on data security so that they aren't a risk to causing a breach either. So you want to be clear with them who's going to be in contact with them whenever you do contact them, what methods of communication they can expect from you, steps that they should be taking to preserve their own confidentiality, and then also how to report anything if they are a victim of phishing or anything similar to that. And then we have virtual collaboration which is a super important aspect of transitioning to either a virtual or hybrid firm. The first thing you're going to want to do to reach that effectiveness of remote collaboration is to establish communication norms for your office. So for internal communications specifically, you want to have it kind of clear to everyone if there are certain communications or if there are certain types of communications that are best communicated over email versus a scheduled or spontaneous video or phone call or a quick Slack message. So, for example, in our own office, a lot of our communications are done through Slack, and we do a lot of planning that way, we do a lot of messaging that way, but then every once in a while, an email maybe for a more complex thing or for kind of connecting people who are outside of our office with us, we use email. And then same thing for the videos or phone calls. These are more scheduled, but there's still just a universal understanding of this in the office of how we're going to communicate, and then everyone does it in the same fashion, and things are just a little more efficient in that way. Also, you want to establish a norm for once a message is sent, is it a norm to share it elsewhere or just stick to the one form? So for example, if you're going to Slack someone, do you want to also follow up with an email, or do you want to keep everything on Slack or keep everything on email? Everyone in the office should know what is that plan of attack there. And then lastly, the last part of that is figuring out a norm for how people are going to respond as far as response times go based on the type of communication they're getting. So maybe a Slack message should be responded to within 24 hours, an email maybe 2 days, something like that, just so that you have something, just a process that is streamlined for your office as far as communication goes while you're not face-to-face. You can't just walk over to someone's desk, for example. And then while also on team video conferences, go ahead and establish a norm of if everyone does their video on or off, for example, and then same thing for any attorneys that are conferencing with clients. Do you expect your attorneys in your office to have their video on or video off with their clients? Just again, just setting expectations for communication. And then the next part of this is to create intentional spaces. And one of the biggest challenges that is moving to virtual is not being with your team in a physical space, of course. And so what I mean by creating intentional spaces is by creating virtual spaces and rituals for celebrations and socializing can really strengthen the relationships in the office and lay the foundation for future collaboration. This works really well in a messaging space like Slack. So for example, a channel could be created to share pictures of your pets being cute that day, or maybe just being diligent about acknowledging office birthdays, just something like that. But just having a space for something that's just not work related, it's personally, or it's exclusively for office culture things. And then of course you'll want to use the right tech, which we have talked about a bit throughout this webinar, but for internal communications and to achieve a well-rounded collaboration ecosystem, basically, you'll likely need more than one tool. And for many law firms, they're really going to be working best with a messaging tool like Slack, like we mentioned, but along with email and video conferencing. So you may find that just having one of those things isn't really cutting it. And so you might want to try 2 or 3 things to help create that collaboration ecosystem. Okay, and then in the last part of this webinar, I just wanted to show you guys our new instant website design tool. It's new and free to use for you all. It's just a way to kind of get a quick preview of what your website could look like with us. You can choose many different customization factors, such as your layout, your colors, your fonts, but then you can also customize it with your name and your logo and all of those good things. I'm going to link that in the chat for you here if you want to take a look. Again, it's just a great way to get a quick look at what your website could look like with us. If you are interested in joining us, or maybe you are looking into becoming a little bit more virtual or into a hybrid method and you need a new law firm website to help support that. Your firm's website is really going to be the foundation of your digital marketing strategy. A high quality modern website is going to be that first step to targeting your local ideal client, but it's also going to be that anchor for being virtual in the legal landscape. And then for these last few minutes, I just want to take you on a quick tour of some of the features that are, or some of our tech that I think attorneys benefit the most from. One of the things being forms, which is one of the ways that you can engage with clients through your website and specifically on a Lawlytics website. But before we get into that, just to introduce where we are right now, this is the Lawlytics dashboard. So if you're a member with us and you have a website, this is going to be your landing spot for any changes or additions that you're making to your website. You can see we have some shortcuts here, such as making a new blog post or a new case result, new page. There's a shortcut to the blog as well as the content library, viewing our tutorials or contacting support. This is just kind of your landing area. And then we have all of our shortcuts up here in our toolbar. But going into one of our websites, I'm just going to go into a sample website here. If you had multiple sites with us, this is where they will appear for you. And then immediately we see kind of the back end of the website. On the left is our navigation bar that appears on the top of our website. It's appearing to us vertically here, and these are all of our different tabs and pages on our site. And then on the right is our content of each page, depending on what we are clicked on. So This is where you can go to click through your pages, make any changes to the content, add any widgets or things like that. It's really easy to use, kind of just like any sort of text editor. And to give you an idea of what this looks like on the front end, those pages we were looking at on our left are on our toolbar up top, or our navigation bar, sorry. And then this is just an example of a sample website. You can have an image slider, some information about your firm, your practice area with clickable icons into each practice area page, a contact form, which we're going to look into next, and then just your office location information. So going back into this, if I wanted to create a form on my website, a form is a great way to, as you saw on the sample website, it's a great way for a lead to get in touch with you, or they can sign up for your newsletter if you had one, or they can request a free consultation. Whatever you wanted your call to action to be and how you wanted to bring in your leads from your website, these forms are really easy to create through Lawlytics. So you want to just go into libraries and then forms. And these are just a few examples of ones that have been created already. But say we had one that was just contact our firm. You can have several different types of forms throughout your website. This one is just a regular contact one, but like I mentioned, you can have a newsletter, CTA, or a free consultation one, whatever fits with your firm's needs and business goals. But to create these, all you're going to do is select new, and then you're going to give that form a title, some intro text, as well as a response message, and then redirect them if you wish to using the redirect URL. And then you're going to have your form fields, which you can customize. These will be anything that you want to capture from that lead. So these can be super brief, just like a name and email if you wanted to do something like that, or they can be a little bit more detailed. Maybe I wanted to add a form field that asks, like, how did you hear about us? And then include that. And I can make these required or open-ended and change the response type. Maybe it's multi-line, things like that. And then the best part about this is that you can assign a recipient to it. So if you had someone in your office who normally handles your intakes, you can assign a recipient for those so that they are guaranteed to be notified once someone submits that on your website. And then they can deal with it. And then you can also link it with your case management system. For this example, we have Clio on this example site. And then that information from the submitted form on the website is going to go immediately to your case management system. Everything is streamlined and organized for you in that way. So that's just a little about forms, which is just one of the elements that are really going to help you make that transition to a virtual firm. Excuse me. And then the next thing I want to show you is our, go ahead and leave, is our content library. So this is a really cool tool that's a little bit newer to us. We've been building out these topics and practice areas for quite some time now. This is a way that you can access hundreds of practice area topics for your practice area pages. So say that you were either starting your website from scratch or you were creating a new practice area for your website. You can simply go into this content library, view all of our different topic cards that pertain to your desired practice area, and then these are high quality pieces of content that you can quickly customize and then publish directly to your website, and then build your content right away and build your website's search engine optimization. So let's go over a little example to show you what I mean. Right now we have over, we have 20 practice areas and a little bit over 320 topics. So for example, under business law, we have a page about business law. And on the right here, we see the preview of the content, and then everything in blue is what we're going to be customizing in our next step. And then on the left, we have all the ways that the content has been optimized for search engine performance. So we have, for example, the 10 link opportunities, 3 optimized subtitles. It's a business law parent page, which means it's really going to anchor your business law practice area for your website. And then it also establishes your law firm brand. So that's all the ways it's been optimized. And then once you click into use this template, for me, I have already customized some content in the past and down here saved my entries. So this is already auto-populating for me on the right here. I have all of my state and law firm name information, as well as my phone number, my consultation type, and it was auto-populated for me on the right here. And then I can just go ahead and complete the customization. And then I'm brought into the back end where I have my text editor. I can change the title, decide where I want to nest that page, maybe, sorry, not under my blog, but maybe under criminal defense, even though it's business law, choose a parent page, and then make any additional customizations to my content, or I can just post it as is, but you have options to add widgets, any sort of navigation, image, video, anchor links, hyperlinks, click to call phone numbers. There's lots of ways that you can customize this for your website. And then once you're satisfied, you can either save it as a draft for later, or if you went ahead and published it, I'll show you what it looks like on the front end. This is how it's going to look on my website. I had nested it under criminal defense, and there's the page. And then that's how it'll appear on the front end of my website alongside a form if I've created one, and then also just any information about my firm as well. So just a little bit about our content library. If you were looking for some quick content solutions for your website, if you're starting new or adding a practice area. But that is just a little bit of the back end of our technology. I wanted to thank you all for joining me today. If you do have any questions about having a successful website with Lovelytics, or if you'd like to see more of a full in-depth demo of the technology, please feel free to reach out to us using any of the methods that you see here. But with that, I'm just going to go ahead and close out the presentation if I don't have any questions. Again, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.